meringues today. So we'll start with a row of squirrels. I've striped the pastry bag with kind of an ivory color and a brown color so that I can give the squirrels kind of a brown body and a cream colored belly. And these are going to be part of a kind of spring picnic garden meringue set I'm putting together for my local farmers market next weekend. Yesterday I did frogs and snails. And after squirrels and bees, I'm gonna make mushrooms, probably off stream, but I thought that would be a cute set with lots of nice colors. And I've made these squirrel meringues. Actually, I've made them as marshmallows before. So this is my first time translating it to meringues, and I might be making just a few variations. So I start with some little circles as the feet, and then I add these little haunches starting kind of the bottom of the back of the foot, steady pressure, and then easing off to kind of taper into a teardrop shape. I always call them haunches, legs, whatever. And then I'm going to make some little teardrop shaped arms, usually starting at the brown part of the body, but depending on how the striped bag comes out, sometimes it has to be on the cream colored part. These end up being pretty wide just because of the legs. So I could probably make them more compact if I bring them in a little bit like this. They still stick out a little bit. That's okay. And I thought it would actually be really extra cute if I gave them like a little almond or pecan to hold. But I want to keep them nut-free just because of allergies of any potential customers. So if I was just making them for me or a family member, I'd probably give them a little something to hold. Alright, so we've got the main body done. And then last time I made these, I gave them a solid brown head and then kind of painted the muzzle on, but this time I'm going to try to use the striped bag. And see how I like it. I feel like this technique would be really cute for cats and dogs. Maybe hamsters. And let's see, I'm going to give them ears first. Some nice tall squirrel ears. So I start by putting the piping bag into the meringue of the head and piping, and then releasing pressure as I get to the top so I can taper them off. And I'm probably going to get a little experimental with the faces. I'm gonna try a few different things and see what I like. Okay, so first of all, oh my goodness, that's a cute idea. That sounds like chaos having squirrels in the basement. Really cute, but chaotic. So I'm gonna try, I kind of do these mouths for cats and otters and things like that. I'm gonna see how I like this. I have a couple ideas. And then I pipe little circles over it so you can still kind of see that sideways 3 shape. And then I'll pipe a little nose on there. And the eyes. I think I like that pretty well. We'll go like that with a few more of them. And then once I get the faces on there, I will give them some tails. And I'm using a fondant needle right now, which you can find in stores that sell cake decorating supplies. This guy's kind of angled. But you can also use a toothpick. That would work just fine. There we go. Okay, and then we'll draw their little muzzles on. Oops. Got me a little bit large. There we go. Kind of moosh that around a little bit. And we'll give them little noses again. And the eyes. Okay, and then we'll make them a tail. So I've got to make sure I put the piping bag the right way. I think I'm going to lean it this way so that the white is on the back, like the underside of the tail. There we go. Again. So I kind of positioned the piping tip at an angle, touching the base of the squirrel, and then not very much pressure, and then I add pressure towards the top so it kind of gets thicker like that, and then ease off and swirl to end the movement. Oh, they could pass as corgis. I do think their faces do look a little bit dog-like, so this may not be the best solution, but yeah, they could be like little standing up corgis. All right, so there's our first row, and now let's do some bumblebees. And these are a little bit experimental. The only time I've done bumblebees before, I made them kind of sitting up, but then trying to pipe little black stripes around them was really tedious. So now I think I'm gonna just try and make them kind of laying down. So just making, oops, getting messy. Start by creating kind of the same shape I'd make for cats or bunnies. Trying to make them a little bit rounded because I want them to be kind of chunky little bees. And let's see, we will start with, maybe we'll do 2 stripes and see how that looks. We'll add 3 if we need to. Yeah, maybe 3 stripes. I like that. I'll do that with the rest of them. I'll start from the back this time. So those are a little time consuming, but still much nicer on the hands than the previous design I did. One more, and then I'll add some little faces. Okay, so we'll start with some little eyes. Just gonna do some dots. Oh, I should probably give them antenna too. When you package them, do you find that the colors rub off on each other? Yes. So it's not a huge problem, but that is something to keep in mind, that when you package them and they touch each other and rub, they will have a little bit of transfer to them. And I think it's mostly like the meringue dust kind of wears off. So it hasn't been a huge problem. I do a lot of designs that are white, and so I'll get little spots of other colors when I package them with other colors. So just something to be aware of. And I try to pack them fairly tight so that they don't move around too much, because that's usually when you get the color transfer. It's when they're moving around. All right, let's give them a little doot, smiley face. There we go. And last, I'm going to give them some wings. And I'll use white for that. So we'll just kind of think so that they're more secure. I'm going to pipe them slightly flat. That way they're less likely to break off. Kind of lifting up over the stripes, because I'm noticing if I just drag through, it displaces the stripes a little bit. And I feel like if I start narrower at the beginning, that might look a little better. So light pressure to begin with, and then pull out and increase pressure to make a teardrop shape. There we go. So we've got some cute little bees, and then we'll start on another row of squirrels. And I'm going to try and pipe these bodies a little bit narrower, just because their legs do make them stick out a little bit more. There we go. Give them some legs and arms. I feel like I've gone sort of big with a lot of the designs I've been doing for this set, and so I'm a little concerned they won't all be able to fit in a tub. 10 pieces each, so if I can make them a little smaller, that will help. And I tend to like to do sets with a combination of simple and complex designs, because it averages out the amount of time it takes me to do it. The simple designs can go really quick, and the complex ones take a little bit longer. And one of the biggest factors when I figure my pricing is the time it takes me to make them. It's probably the most expensive part of the process. So averaging it out helps me keep the prices pretty consistent, so that each 10-piece tub is the same price each time. And sometimes I will make more complex designs, and then I'll sell them in smaller quantities and charge a little bit more, just because they do take so much time and they take up a bunch of space in the tub, but not as often. Okay, and now make their heads. Oh, he's gonna be looking off to the side a little bit. It'll be interesting. When I was little, we used to visit my grandma and grandpa each summer. And my grandpa trained the squirrels in their neighborhood to be really trusting. And they did that by feeding them, of course. So when I was little, they'd take me outside and they'd have unshelled peanuts. And me and my grandpa would sit there and hold out the peanuts for the squirrels to take. So they'd come right up, they'd take it out of my hand, and then they'd run off and go bury it somewhere. And then they'd come back for more. That's always a really fun memory. Whoopsie. Launching my tray. Okay, we'll put the jowls on again. I didn't mean to pipe them all with such an angle to their head, but it's kind of funny that they look like they're facing the camera, some of them. These guys, their little noses. And their eyes. Okay, and then I'm going to spin them around and give them tails. I'm going to try not to mess up my bees in the process. And I might have to change bags for most of these. Maybe one more tail and then I'll switch bags. Okay. Oh, that one's just coming out brown. This one. That one's a little better. Okay. the row of squirrels done. Get back to some bees. And some stripes. Alright, and we'll start giving them some eyes and antenna again. And I'm trying to keep the antenna fairly short just because little thin pieces like this can break off pretty easily. I'm hoping that bracing it against that stripe that sticks out a little bit will make it a little bit sturdier. Go. And then I'll give them little smiley mouths. Happy little guys. And last piece, the bees, we'll do the wings. And I kind of like to start them after that first stripe and then just kind of lift them over the second stripe. Not quite to the third stripe, almost touching it. There we go. back to the squirrels. All right. Let's see. I'll twist it that way so the belly is facing forward. And I'll pipe them a little bit thinner like I did last time. And give them legs and feet. I think I'll probably make these again in the fall because I always think of squirrels when I think of the fall. I think about them in the spring and summer too, but they just seem like a very fall animal. Hedgehogs and bears and squirrels, foxes. Woodland animals are pretty much good all year round though. Okay, and I'm actually going to use this other bag to pipe the heads because I'm going to see what it looks like with more just brown. Oh, and it's starting to, this one was kind of slow to get the cream color out, but it's starting to go now. Oh, and I'm falling behind on my comments. Sorry, guys. So, looks like we have a question. Can you over dry them when cooking them? And I have not run into that problem. That's one thing I like about meringues is it seems kind of hard to over dry them. You can set the temperature too high and it will brown them. So that's one thing to be aware of, but I've left them baking in the dehydrator for 8 hours before just because I didn't want to risk them getting any moisture. So I put them in right before bed and I was like, I'm not going to wake up in 3 hours and check on these. So I used it kind of as an alarm clock and they were just fine. So as long as you keep them at that really low temperature, I think it should just be just fine. I think at a certain point they just don't lose much more moisture. So let's see. And then there's another question that had come in. So cute, thank you. Do I have a favorite animal or design of all the cookies I've made so far. And I don't know that I have a favorite, but I do have ones that I like more than others. Like, I love making bears. Anytime I make bears, I'm happy. And I don't think they're necessarily the best seller, although if I do brown bears and black bears packaged together, those usually do pretty well, because that's a whole thing here in Montana. I love making ducks. I just seem to keep going back to ducks. So those are probably the two favorite ones right now. And I always like to go back to farm animals too. They can get a little bit tricky. The chickens and the pigs are really fun. I love the cows, but they are a little bit more involved, so they can be kind of tricky. I'm liking these squirrels with the heads that are a little bit more brown. I think that's kind of cute. I think just give them that little muzzle helps to get that cream color in there. Alright, and then I'll get started on some tails back here again. I love that little white underside on the tails. That is something I'd never done before. But it's something I think I'll keep doing. And this one. Okay, and I think we can fit one more row of bees. And I'm kind of debating if I want to add a stinger. I don't want it to break off, but I think if I add a small enough one, it'll be fine. Which means I'll have to leave enough room back there where I can actually get them on there. I'll switch it up and start doing the antennas from this side, this row. And then we'll go back the other way and make the eyes. And then we'll draw mouths on them. I'm finding I like the really dramatic U-shaped mouths rather than like the gentler, wider ones. Just makes them look real happy. Go, and then I'll spin those around and we'll see how stingers look. Oh no, I have to do the wings first. Then I'll do the stingers. Thank you. I do sell them on my website, but they're only available for local pickup and delivery in Helena, Montana. The cottage food laws in Montana only let me sell them face to face to people. And with the Food Freedom Act, I can have something like DoorDash deliver them. But that's kind of the extent, unfortunately. Still has to be in the area. I think it's only a matter of time before Montana does allow shipping and wholesaling, because there are a lot of states around the country who are expanding their cottage food movements, and aww. I wish I could ship them too. I wish I could make them available to everybody. But states like Oregon have made it within the cottage food laws to ship and wholesale, so I think it's only a matter of time. Fingers crossed. These are kind of goofy little stingers, but I'm okay with that. Oh, I'm glad you like Flareon. I love Flareon. It's really hard for me to pick a favorite evolution because they're all so cute. Okay, I'm gonna go put these in the dehydrator to wait for the rest of them, and I'm gonna grab another tray and start with squirrels. Be right back. On second thought, I took off some of these squirrels' ears because the They were a little bit tall for the place I had them in the dehydrator, so I'm just gonna fix those and then I'll put them in. Okay, I think everybody else is looking okay. Whew. Crisis averted. Round 2. Got meringue all over myself in the incident. Oh my goodness. Okay. Ooh, acorns would be cute. I won't do that this time just because I'm not sure how much meringue I'll have to add those. I didn't account for it, but I might have to do that again in the future. I like that idea. I thought about having them hold actual pecan halves or almonds. I thought that would be really cute. But I wanted to make them accessible to people with nut allergies. But then just piping on a little acorn design. I feel like that would be good because it just seems right to have them holding a little acorn or something. I keep wanting to make hamsters, and every time I try, they don't come out how I want them to, but I thought it would be cute to have them hold sunflower seeds once I get them down. Ooh, cookie sprinkles that look like acorns. That's a good idea. I'll have to look into that. I feel like they make sprinkles for just about everything nowadays. I think I've seen like a bunch of sea animal ones, like fish and shells and dolphins. Lots of fruits like cherries and lemons and strawberries. So they've got to have acorns, I would think. Yeah, exactly, like Hamtaro. And that makes me think they wouldn't have to be two-toned because Hamtaro is like orange and white, but Bijou was all white, so I can make some white hamsters pretty easy, I think. Although it's kind of the head shape that gives me trouble most of the time. I made little Easter bunny meringues, or not meringues, marshmallows not too long ago. And they actually ended up accidentally looking more like hamsters, so maybe I just try to make those and give them smaller ears. I think this was the piping bag I used for their heads. Yep, a little bit more on the brown side with just a little bit of white starting to peek through. Or ivory, I guess I should say. Start on their little mouths. Now I'm thinking it'd be really cute to do kind of like a backyard garden inspired set where it's like kind of birds and squirrels and maybe even like cookies shaped like a birdhouse or something. So for the mouths and the eyes, I'm still using meringue, but as I'm mixing it in my stand mixer, when it's more medium peaks, just whipped a little bit less. I take some out and set it aside and then color it with gel food coloring. So in this case, the black and the ivory or the cream color are kind of that same consistency. And then I'll keep whipping the rest of it. So the brown and the yellow, I kept whipping to almost stiff peaks, not quite. That way, the less whipped parts are easier to draw on details, so it is a little bit more like the consistency of the food coloring itself. But I think I've never tried straight food coloring, and the only reason is I'm afraid the color would bleed, but I can't say for sure. I haven't tried it. And then you just want to be careful not to underwhip the stuff that the meringue that you're using for the fine details like the mouths, because even underwhipping it, the colors can start to bleed. Even though it's not straight food gel, the less whipped it is, the less stable, so you can get some of that bleed, which is a bummer. So hopefully these don't. Sometimes I still struggle with figuring out the right consistency. There we go. Now we'll make ears and tails. Be cute to do a mix of just squirrels that are like brown squirrels and gray squirrels. I think Kirby would be super easy and super fun to make because he's just a little blob. I've made Jigglypuff before, and that one was really fun. Super quick to make. I think the challenging part of Kirby would just be his face, like getting his eyes drawn on to look like his face. But the body and the feet and stuff are such simple shapes. I think that would make a great meringue. And then it would be really cute to give him a little, like if you piped a flat star, then you could put the star in coffee and float him on top of the star. I feel like you could do a lot of cute stuff with Kirby. And then make other designs that are just pink to like say like, oh, he's transformed. So some where he's just his normal self, and then some of them where he's like a car, or I don't know, whatever else he transforms into. It'd be really fun to make him a marshmallow too, because it would be really addicting to just sit there and squish him. All right, we'll move on to some bees. I think we're gonna have way more bees than squirrels. Because the bees just do not take as much meringue. Not the bees! I'll take some bees, please. Just some bees. Ooh. Baby bees as meringues and then a big meringue hive. That'd be cool. It'd be cool to make it kind of like a pavlova too, where it's got like whipped cream and lemon curd in there. Mm. Sometimes I like to mix up the baked goods too, so like you could do a cinnamon roll beehive. That'd be pretty tasty. And then decorate with the little bees around it. I know they have beehive shaped cake molds somewhere. I can't remember where I've seen those, but that'd be pretty cute too. This is what I love about baking though, like especially getting kind of artsy with it. I just feel like there's so many different combinations and possibilities that I'm just never gonna run out of ideas there. So many good ones out there. I think I'm gonna give them all the same expression just so that customers get consistent products. But I love the idea of giving them different expressions. Like whenever I watch Kim Joy's little creations on Instagram or something, I love when she gives them different faces. I think that's so cute. I should start practicing that more. Go. And little faces. Ooh. There we go. Aww. That sounds so cute. Chocobo cupcakes. That's so sweet. I bet she loved those. My mom's the same way where she loves meringues. She loves eating them. But she also feels bad eating them when they're too cute. So I'll give her a ton of my leftovers. And she'll sit there and sort through them to find the least cute one to eat. And she'll just try and keep finding the less cute ones. Like, you're gonna have to eat the cute ones at some point, but... So sometimes I give her my little, like, disaster ones, because I'm like, well, they're not even cute. Or, like, just meringue kisses if I have extra meringue. That's what you gotta do sometimes. I find that at farmer's market, it's usually teenagers and older have that reaction of like, oh my gosh, I don't know if I could even eat them. They're too cute. But kids they're like, oh my gosh, those are cute. And then they go straight for the head. They bite their face off, which always makes me laugh. Like they know what's up. They know how to eat these. feel like now that you got me thinking about chocobos, those would be really cute meringues. Might be a little tricky. Think about how to make those. I've been wanting to make moogles for a long time now. I'm gonna have to write that down because I keep forgetting. I love moogles. I especially love the moogles from Crystal Chronicles because they're just so like puffy and cute. I think you could shave them and color them and stuff. Can't remember, it's been a while. Yeah, the little puff balls. I don't know if I could make those as meringues or not, but yay! And then I'm thinking like it wouldn't be good with people with coconut allergies, but you could use like some desiccated coconut. I'd use that as their fur, especially if they were marshmallows instead of meringue. Then I could just kind of roll them in it. And then they really would be puff balls. So we'll see, that might be something I have to try soon. Ooh, so you made meringue cookies, cotton candy, little pretzel sticks, and then added 3 little sprinkles. That sounds cute. It sounds like it turned out really magical. Meringue and pretzel taste so good together too, so that's smart. And sprinkles, honestly, like, I don't know what it is, but I'll make vanilla meringue kisses with sprinkles and people love them. And honestly, I've been craving macarons with sprinkles and just buttercream lately. Yeah, right, that combination of salty and sweet is just, that's tasty. I had a friend who wanted me to make those jumbo pretzel rods covered in meringue, so I made those for like a Christmas party or something one time. They were good. I don't think I would have made those unless she suggested it. And thank goodness she did, because that is a combination worth keeping around. I feel like you could make all sorts of cute wands and stuff with that too. Completely edible meringue pops, things like that. Oh, good question. I think making meringue is way easier than making marshmallows. And the main reason is just because meringue you can work with, especially Italian meringue. I think I've worked with it for 4 hours straight before it really breaks down. Whereas marshmallow sets up so quickly, I feel like you have to work within like a half an hour to get all the designs out before it's too hard to work with. And you can kind of reheat it to make it runnier, but it does start to break down. So marshmallows are a lot of fun. I just find them a little bit more stressful than meringue. Meringue is forgiving and I can kind of take my time. But besides that, they're really similar mixing techniques. The gelatin can be a little bit trickier, but the piping techniques too translate really well between the two. So I think meringue will always be my favorite, but sometimes you just want a marshmallow. And I prefer to eat marshmallows because to me they taste less sweet and I like the texture. I like meringues too. They're nice and crunchy, but I prefer less sweet desserts, so. And then if I'm doing a design that reminds me of a stuffed animal, I really like to make it as a marshmallow because it just feels right, and then you can squish them and give these guys some little noses. I feel like these squirrels started off so big and now they've just gotten much tinier. I'll probably end up doing a mix of a big squirrel and a small squirrel in each tub. Then people can pretend they're a mommy and a baby. I think chipmunks would be fun too with the same technique. I think I would just have to stripe the bag in a certain way. I keep putting them off because they seem a little bit more challenging. But maybe they wouldn't be so bad. Alright, I'm going to spin these around and give them tails. Trying not to mess up the bees in the meantime. Ooh. Sometimes there will be an air bubble like that, and I'll just kind of swirl around until I can fix it. I think I can get one more out of this bag. Oh, a little bit tricky there. And I'll switch, this is my last bag, so we're getting towards the end of the squirrels. There we go. And then we'll make another row of these. Oh my goodness. Okay. Last bag of yellow meringue too, but there's a lot more in it. And there was some air in that bag which caused it to burp, so then I'm going to take my fondant needle, kind of smooth that out as best I can. Kind of get rid of those waves. This bee's a little bit skinnier than the other one, so that might be more sample quality. We'll see. Give these guys some eyes. And some mouths. Alright, I'll give them some wings and stingers. Go. Oh, this is ivory, not white. It still looks cute, but that's more what I wanted. Right, spin them. Give them some stingers. And let's see if we can get one more row of squirrels out of this last bag. That little bee's a little deformed. That's okay. Definitely happens. We love them all though. Sometimes we love them because they're sample quality. Because who doesn't like free samples? My favorite deformed meringues I've ever ended up with were some Santas. And it was the first time I made Santa meringues. And they were a little top heavy, so when I baked them, their heads, kind of like the squirrels here, they were much bigger, and they just like leaned over. So it looked like they just kind of keeled over and died. It was morbid. They looked hilarious. One of my other favorite meringue fails was I was trying to make snowmen around the same time. And this is when I still used my oven to bake meringues instead of my dehydrator. So instead of 200 degrees Fahrenheit, I accidentally set the oven to 300. And luckily I noticed about 3 minutes in that I could smell, sugar. I was like, oh no. It was too late to save them. They all had suntans. But it was kind of a happy accident because they tasted really good. They tasted kind of like a toasted marshmallow, but they were crunchy since they were meringues. So I brought them to work because I was like, I can't sell these. I'm trying to sell snowmen for like a Christmas set. These don't really work. They almost looked kind of vintage though. It was cute, like kind of browned as if they were aged a little bit. So I brought them to work because I was still working my day job at the time. And everybody really liked them. They're like, could you just like ruin more of them? And before I do the details, I'm going to try and get their tails on there. So at some point, I kind of want to make some designs intentionally toasted like that. But I feel like I'd have to pick the right designs, like maybe Shibas, maybe cats, stuff that just look really kind of look toasty anyways. That would be pretty cute. Got a little wild on that tail, but still works. So that's the last of the squirrels. able to squeeze another row of bees on there. At least a few more before I change to the next sheet. Kind of pipe those rows at an angle, so leaves a little bit less room at the front of the sheet. I think I can put one more bee without it getting too close. So these don't spread like cookies really, but they can kind of lean over a little bit during baking. So they pretty much look the same now as they will after baking, but I do still try to avoid piping them too close together because if they touch, then they're baked together. So, especially with taller designs like the squirrels, they tend to lean a little bit. I'll give these guys some wings and stingers, and then I will put them in the dehydrator. I won't turn the dehydrator on yet, but I'll just use them to store them until I'm ready to bake them all. And I'll swap out with another sheet and do some more bees. Actually, the stinger might be easier to put on there at this angle. There we go. All right, I'll be right back. I'm going to grab the other tray. And get some more bees on there. So this last tray will just be all bees. And that means I'm going to have a disproportionate amount of bees and squirrels, which is okay because I think we have a disproportionate amount of frogs and snails from yesterday. And so I could have some modified tubs that are maybe just like bees and frogs, or just bees. Or if I make mushrooms, bees and mushrooms, frogs and mushrooms. I'll just see. And then if I still have some left over, they become samples. Been thinking it would be really fun to make some little meringue flowers, like some really simple daisies, maybe rosettes, and then float the bees on top of those on tea or coffee. So we'll see. That might be another use for leftover bees. When I do these designs, sometimes I zone out real easy if I'm doing the same one over and over again. Just kind of comfy. Makes me relaxed. I used to really hate doing high quantities of really repetitive baking, like petit fours, especially stuff I'd have to dip, like cake pops and petit fours. I would just be over it after the first few. And when I first started, meringues were testing my patience too, but now I find it a really relaxing process. And I look forward to it. Hi there. Oh, that's okay. Thanks for joining. We did squirrel meringues earlier, and then I ran out of meringue. So now we're just doing bees. But the recording should be up after we wrap up sometime. And I do want to make some little shorter videos of the process too. I won't be streaming tomorrow. I think I'm gonna take a little break, but I am gonna be streaming probably Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday next week. And I'm not sure what I'll be streaming next. It might be something simple that I've done a million times, like farm animals. So we'll see. I'll take the weekend to think about it. Yay! I'm glad. I'm excited too. I look forward to streaming. Because if I'm going to be sitting here piping these guys for hours anyways, it's nice to have company. So I appreciate you guys. Man, I am sleepy today. I don't know why I've been so sleepy. I'm probably going to end up taking a nap after this. See here, there we go. I love using black food coloring, but it turns people's mouths and tongues black. Teeth and tongues, everything. So people gotta be strategic when they eat those. Made some Mickey and Minnie Mouse ones one time, and those were probably the worst. Well, no, penguins too. Penguins definitely turn the mouth black. I've been really wanting to try out more natural food coloring for meringues and macaron and frosting. My day was pretty good. How about yours? I woke up a little sleepy, but other than that, I've been doing good. Ooh, that sounds like it's gonna be fun. So you're gonna open up a little coffee shop in church. Coffee shops are so cozy. I bet you guys are gonna have fun running it too. How did your sourdough turn out? I thought it would probably be delicious. Nothing like fresh baked bread. Fresh baked bread. Crunchy and soft. Oh, that's the best when it's got the nice crispy crust and nice soft bread part. It's almost my lunchtime, so that makes me hungry thinking about it. Which is gonna be pretty soon because I think this is my last little row of bees. Make some lunch, and I'm going to try not to fall asleep immediately after that because I keep doing that. I keep taking a nap after I eat, and then I end up with stomach pain, so probably got to wait a few hours. Yeah, I will probably be turning these into kind of compilations, but I've thought about maybe it would be helpful for people if I kind of walked through what steps I'm taking as I take them, kind of like the pressure. I have my how to make meringues video, so I'd probably just refer people back to that for like the basics, but I've thought maybe it could be helpful not just to kind of like show people how it's done, but talk them through it too, so we'll see. I might do that. Awesome. And maybe it would be good to turn them into shorts just so that people can pick the design they want, and it's just like a little 1-minute video explaining it. So that could be fun. Thank you. The squirrels were a little bit experimental, but I like how they turned out. Might still have to work on them a little bit, but happy with them so far. So thank you. All right, and that is all the meringue I have. So I'm gonna go pop these guys in the food dehydrator with the other ones for 3 hours at 165 degrees Fahrenheit. Let them cool down, and then I'll package them. Or no, I'm gonna put them in airtight containers until the whole set is done, and then I'll package them in deli containers. So thank you all for joining me today. I love having company when I make meringues. I'll probably be on Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday next week. Designs are TBD, but I'm sure it'll be something fun. Oh yeah, I can show you really quick how the other ones turned out. So 1 sec, I'm gonna put these here. No, I'll just take them and swap them. So these are rows of squirrels and bees. So their faces, I kind of experimented with them being a little bit white. And their tails I really like because it's maybe hard to see on some of these, but they're white underneath and then they kind of swirl. And then, yeah, so those are the ones I've done today. All right, so thanks everybody for joining. I'm gonna go get some lunch and I will see you on the next one. Bye.